Ladies and gentlemen, it's that time again with Professor Victor Singingeagle here at Sisseton Wahpeton College. And it's 15 minutes to 5 p.m. and I got to go teach my CDL class. I haven't even warmed up my trucks yet. So without any further ado, let's get busy with the part of the hero's journey in Native American literature. Actually, whoever came up with this plot line or plot summary, it's called the circular story structure. I bet you the person was a big fan of Mo I don't know the English name for that. Maybe Lord of the Rings. I'm still stuck in Chinese mode. Mo Lord of the Rings, because we have here, we start off in the ordinary world. We get a call to adventure, refusal of the call, meeting the mentor, crossing threshold, test allies, enemies, approaching the cave. An ordeal, a reward, the road back, return with an elixir or treasure back to the ordinary world. Now, when I was at the South Dakota Festival of Books, we had a presenter who she called this the hook / foreshadowing. She took a more hazy approach to this. That's why it kind of looks weird. There's some missing here, but I imagine there's a hook foreshadowing here, facing one's inner demons. We get to the first plot point. Her argument is if we don't get to the first plot point, at least 3/8 of the way through the story, your story is going to crash and burn. Then we realize some new goals. Then we get to something she calls a pinch point. A first pinch point. We reach something called a second pinch point. And then the biggest third pinch point attack or battle. We get to a resolution and a road back. That's all part of this resolution phase. So without any further yickety-yak, I tried to make this video a second ago, actually like 15 freaking minutes ago. That's why I keep walking over here, because I pushed record and the stupid thing didn't record. And I was standing up here just delivering a brilliant lecture, plugging in Read, Listen, Tell, page 85. Thomas King's story about, it's called Borders, Crossing the Canadian-U.S. Border. Got to keep in mind, Thomas King is originally from Sacramento area. I believe he's Greek and Cherokee and some other Anglo, I don't remember which one is which, but he spent some time doing photojournalism in Australia and New Zealand, and then he went to University of California, some other universities. He got a PhD in literature, and then he decided he was going to teach up in Canada. He fell in love and got a Canadian citizenship, so now he's a dual citizen. So page 85, he's dramatizing some Blackfeet crossing the border. Page 85. There we go. Let's do a little reading. Thomas King, who was one of Turtle Island's most celebrated authors. King and his brother were raised by their single mother in California. As a young man, yeah, we already heard all that. So we're going to jump to this. The author describes Blackfeet family's attempts to cross into the United States, determined to visit a daughter who was left home to live on her own in Salt Lake City. The narrator's mother gets trapped between the U.S. and Canadian border when she refuses to claim citizenship. My voice is going to any nation but the Blackfoot Nation. Ooh. Let's read. We're going to start off in the ordinary world on page 86. When I was 12, maybe 13. Oh, hang on. I'm reading from this book, by the way. There's a whole lot of flashbacks in this story, so bear with me. I'm going to try to skip through some stuff. When I was 12, maybe 13, my mother announced that we were going to Salt Lake City to visit my sister who had left the reserve, moved across the line, and found a job. Letitia had not left home with my mother's blessing, but over time, my mother had come to be proud of the fact that Letitia had done all of this on her own. So we're starting off in the ordinary world. We're up in Canada, on a small reserve. I believe it's probably in Alberta. She did real good, my mother would say. Then there were the fine points to Letitia's going. She had not, as my mother liked to tell Mrs. Manyfingers, gone floating after some man like a balloon on a string. She hadn't snuck out of the house either and gone to Vancouver or Edmonton or Toronto to chase rainbows down alleys. And she hadn't been pregnant. She did real good. I was 7 or 8 when Letitia had left home. She was 17. Our father was from Rocky Boy on the American side. Dad's American, Letitia told my mother, so I can go and come as I please. Send us a postcard. Letitia had packed her things and we headed for the border. Just outside of Milk River, Letitia told us to watch for the water tower. Over the next rise is the first thing you see. We got to a water tower on the reserve. My mother said, there's a big one in Lethbridge, too. You'll be able to see the tops of the flagpoles, too. That's where the border is. So, we're getting to this ordinary world and a call to adventure. The daughter is being taken to the U.S. border. I'm going to skip on down to where, page 87. Lots of mountains in Salt Lake, Letitia told her in English. The place is closed. They're at the border now. I said, just like I told you. Letitia tucked in her hair into her jacket and dragged her bag down the road to the brick building where the American flag was flapping on a pole. When she got to where the guards were waiting, she turned, put the bag down, and waved to us. We waved back. Then my mother turned the car around, and we came home. That's the middle of 87. Actually, the top of 87, really. Now we're going to jump to page 88. They decide they want to go and visit Letitia. So, let's go to it. So, they decide later, a couple years later, let's see. We left the reserve in the morning and drove till we got to Coots. That must be a border town. Last time we stopped here, my mother said, you had an orange crush. You remember that? Sure, I said. That was when Letitia took off. You want another orange crush? That means we're not going to stop at a restaurant, right? My mother got a coffee at a convenience store. We stood around and watched the prairies move in the sunlight. Then we climbed back into the car. My mother straightened the dress across her thighs, leaned against the wheel, and drove all the way to the border in first gear, slowly, as if she were trying to see through a bad storm or riding high on black ice. The border guard was an old guy. As he walked to the car, he swayed from side to side. We're getting so I don't know if there's inner demons or anything like that, but or a meeting the mentor, but we're getting to a plot point here. And we're getting to a crossing a threshold a little bit, are we not? Let's keep going. Border guard says, "Morning, ma'am." "Good morning." "Where are you heading?" "Salt Lake City." "Purpose of your visit?" "Visit my daughter." "Citizenship?" "Blackfoot," my mother told him. "Ma'am?" "Blackfoot," my mother repeated. "Canadian?" "Blackfoot." It would have been easier if my mother had just said Canadian and been done with it. I wonder if we are now in the cave. We're at the first pinch point, maybe. No, we're not at the cave yet. We're getting there. We're at the first pinch point, possibly. Keep in mind, this is a challenge. I want to know if you think this is valid. We can apply this to Native literature. That's why I'm throwing this at you. I'm going faster this time because I previously recorded the same exact video, and for some reason, the play button didn't work. Never mind, focus. Page 88. Blackfoot. It would have been easier if my mother had just said Canadian and been done with it. But I could see she wasn't going to do that. The guard wasn't angry or anything. He smiled and looked toward the building, then turned back and nodded. "Morning, ma'am." "Good morning." "Any firearms or tobacco?" "No." "Citizenship?" "Blackfoot." He told us to sit in the car and wait, and we did. In about 5 minutes, another guard came out with the first man. They were talking as they came, both men swaying back and forth like two cowboys headed for a gunfight or a bar. "Morning, ma'am." "Good morning." "Cecil tells me you and the boy are Blackfoot." "That's right." "Now I know we got Blackfeet on the American side, and the Canadians got Blackfeet on their side, just so we can keep our records straight. What side do you come from?" I knew exactly what my mother was going to say, and I could have told them if they had asked me. "Canadian side or American side?" asked the guard. "Blackfoot side," she said. It didn't take them long to lose their sense of humor, I can tell you that. The one guard stopped smiling altogether and told us to park our car at the side of the building and come in. We sat on the wood bench for about an hour before anyone came over. Maybe we're now inside the building, inside the cave. We're at the second pinch point, and we're building up to an ordeal or a battle. Maybe. Let's keep rolling. I'm going to jump on over to page 89. A woman now is coming. They are inside the American Guard building, whatever you want to call it, the Border Customs Office. Woman comes forward. She's young. She says, "Hi, I'm Inspector Pratt. I understand there's a little misunderstanding. I'm going to visit my daughter in Salt Lake City," my mother told her. "We don't have any guns or beer. It's a legal technicality, that's all. My daughter's Blackfoot, too." The woman opened a briefcase and took out a couple forms and began to write on them. "Everyone who crosses our border has to declare their citizenship, even Americans. It helps us keep track of the visitors we get from the various countries." She went on like that for about 15 minutes, and a lot of the stuff she told us was interesting. "I can understand how you feel about having to tell us your citizenship, and here's what I'll do. You tell me, and I won't put it down on the form. No one will know but you and me." Her gun was silver, because remember, she's a border guard too. There were several chips in the wood handle, and the name Stella was scratched into the metal butt. We were in the border office for about 2 hours, and we talked to almost everyone there. One of the men bought me a Coke. My mother brought a couple of sandwiches from the car. I offered part of mine to Stella, but she said she wasn't hungry. Oh man, 2 minutes before my CDO class starts. Let's see if I can get rolling. We're still in the belly of the beast, or the cave. So I told Stella that we were Blackfoot and Canadian, but she said that didn't count because I was a minor. In the end, she told us that if my mother didn't declare her citizenship, we would have to go back to where we came from. My mother stood up, thanked Stella for her time, and we got back in the car and drove back to the Canadian border. So remember, there is a guard shack on the Canadian side and a guard shack on the American side, and there's like 100 yards or so between them. She's in her car. She's stuck. Now she's leaving the American side because they won't let her in. She's going back to the Canadian side. Here we go. Canadian border guard was a young woman. She seemed happy to see us. "Hi," she said. "You guys sure have a great day for a trip. Where are you coming from?" "Standoff." "Is that in Montana?" "No." "Where are you going?" "Standoff." The woman's name was Carol, and I don't guess she was any older than Letitia. "Wow, you both Canadians?" "Blackfoot." "Really? I have a friend who went to school. I went to school with who was Blackfoot. Do you know Mike Harley?" "No." "He went to school in Lethbridge, but he's really from Browning." It was a nice conversation, and there were no cars behind us, so there was no rush. "You're not bringing any liquor back, are you?" "No." "Any cigarettes or plants or stuff like that?" "No." "Citizenship?" "Blackfoot." "I know," said the woman. "I'd be proud of being Blackfoot if I were Blackfoot, but you have to be American or Canadian." Then we got some flashbacks. This is on page 91. We see Letitia and some boyfriend she used to have named Lester. He's the one who planted the seed to help her decide to move to Salt Lake City in the first place. But all of this is going nowhere because mom and son are stuck at the border. They can't get into the Canadian side or the American side. Someone calls the news. The news people show up. Let me read. This is page 93. I'm already late for my CDL class. Early the next morning, the television vans began to arrive, and guys in suits and women in dresses came trotting over to us, dragging microphones. Ooh, I'm 5 minutes late, actually. And cameras and lights behind them. One of the vans had a table set up with orange juice and sandwiches and fruit. It was for the crew, but when I told them we hadn't eaten for a while, a really skinny blonde woman told us we could eat as much as we wanted. They talked mostly to my mother. Every so often, one of the reporters would come over and ask me questions about how it felt to be an Indian without a country. I told them we had a nice house on the reserve and that my cousins had a couple of horses we rode when we went fishing. Some of the television people went over to the American border and they went to the Canadian border. Around noon, a good-looking guy in a blue dark suit and an orange tie with little ducks on it drove up in a fancy car. I'm going to jump on down. Finally, they get to the American border because, remember now, the news is watching. They drive up to the border. This is page 94. Morning, ma'am. Good morning. Where are you heading? Salt Lake City. Purpose of your visit? Visit my daughter. Any tobacco, liquor, or firearms? Don't smoke. Any plants or fruit? Not anymore. Citizenship? Blackfoot. The guard rocked back on his heels and jammed his thumbs into his gun belt. Thank you, he said, his fingers patting the butt of the revolver. Have a pleasant trip. This is 94, the bottom. My mother rolled the car forward and the television people had to scramble out of the way. They ran alongside the car as we pulled away from the border, and when they couldn't run any further, they stood up in the middle of the highway and waved and waved and waved. Top of 95. Maybe we got to the resolution reward and we're going on here to return with the elixir back to the ordinary world. This is 95. We got to Salt Lake City the next day. Letitia was happy to see us, and that first night she took us out to a restaurant that made really good soups. Sounds familiar. I bet I've been there. The list of pies took up the whole page. Yep, I've been there. I had cherry. Mom had chocolate. Letitia said she saw us on television the night before, and during the meal, she had us tell her the story over and over again. Letitia took us everywhere. We went to a fancy ski resort. We went to the temple. We got to go shopping in a couple of large malls, but they weren't as large as the one in Edmonton. And Mom said so. I've been to the Edmonton Mall. If you get a chance, go see it. It's awesome. Big. Biggest mall in the world up in Canada. A week or so, I got bored and sad. My mother said we should be heading back home. Letitia wanted us to stay longer, but Mom said no. Now we're getting to the end. I'm going to skip down. On the way home, we stopped to a duty-free shop, jumped down some more, got to the Canadian border. It was almost evening when we left Coots. I watched the border through the rear window until all you could see were the tops of the flagpoles and the blue water tower. And they rolled over a hill and disappeared. Zoop! What do you think? Does it work? I don't know. It might. I'm not here to tell you what to think. That's your job. Can we apply this to Native literature? Maybe, maybe not. Or maybe Native literature is applying its storyline to this wonderful circular structure. Which came first, the chicken or the egg? That's all for now. I thank you again for being so patient with me. I am 10 minutes late for my CDL truck driving class. I gotta go. Talk to you later. Bye-bye. Dang! 20 minutes. Stop!